Millions of Ethiopians who have experienced famine due to war are once again facing hunger as aid is temporarily halted by both the United States and the United Nations. This pause in aid comes after a significant amount of aid was stolen, leaving many without the necessary resources to sustain themselves. Tesfa Kiros Meresfa, a priest in the Orthodox Christian faith, is among the many individuals who are going door to door to ask for food in northern Ethiopia. This region has been recovering from a 2-year war that caused widespread starvation. Unfortunately, Tesfa Kiros Meresfa and his fellow citizens have been met with disappointment as the crucial resources of grain and oil have vanished once again. These resources are urgently needed by millions of Ethiopians who are caught in a standoff between the Ethiopian government, the United States and the United Nations. US officials claim that this may be the largest case of food aid theft in history. Tesfa expressed that there were no words to convey the level of agony they were experiencing. The United Nations and the United States are currently pressuring Ethiopia's government to relinquish its hold on the extensive system of aid delivery that sustains 1/6 of the nation's populace. In a bold move, both entities have halted their food aid to the second most populous country in Africa until they can guarantee that it will not be seized by Ethiopian officials or combatants. It has been nearly 3 months since aid was stopped in certain areas of the country, and there are now accounts of the initial casualties due to hunger during the hiatus. The United Nations and the United States have stated that aid will not resume in the northern Tigray region until July at the earliest, and for the rest of the country, it will only be restored after reforms have been made to the distribution of aid. In the school complex where Tesfa resides with hundreds of other individuals who have been displaced by the Tigray conflict, the notion of being asked how many meals he eats daily was met with laughter. Tesfa made it clear that the inquiry was a jest, stating that it is not unusual for them to retire to bed hungry. Based on interviews given to the Associated Press, new revelations have come to light regarding the large-scale theft of food aid. Officials from humanitarian organizations, United Nations aid agencies, and US diplomats have shed light on the fact that aid meant for the populace was diverted to military units and markets throughout the country. Furthermore, there are allegations that high-ranking Ethiopian officials played a significant role in this behavior. In March, a startling discovery was made in a town in Tigray. Enough food aid to feed 134,000 individuals for a month had been stolen. However, this is just a small indication of the vast amounts of aid that have been stolen in Ethiopia, the recipient of the largest amount of humanitarian aid from the US. The food, which was intended for families in need, was discovered being sold in local markets or stored in commercial flour mills, still bearing the US flag. The US is currently attempting to gain a full understanding of the extent of this theft. The effects of this issue on the United States are not limited to its borders. It is crucial to demonstrate the government's capability to identify and prevent the misappropriation of aid that American taxpayers have funded. This is especially significant now as the Biden administration contends with retaining public backing for providing aid to Ukraine, a country that is riddled with corruption. According to aid workers, US aid officials revealed to their global partners at a confidential meeting held last week in Ethiopia that this may be the largest instance of food aid being redirected in any country. In an interview with the AP, a high-ranking member of the US Agency for International Development stated that it is impossible to determine the exact amount of food aid that has been stolen. As per a United Nations official and a Western diplomat, who spoke anonymously due to the lack of authorization to speak publicly, medical equipment that was donated also became the target of theft. Since 2022, the Ethiopian government has received $1.8 billion in humanitarian aid from USAID. However, a delay in providing food aid has resulted in widespread suffering. During the war, millions of people experienced hunger due to the looting, burning, and withholding of food supplies by the combatants. United Nations investigators have cautioned that war crimes linked to starvation could potentially occur. The root of the current hunger crisis is believed to be linked to corrupt practices. According to recent reports released by Tigray regional officials, preliminary findings have revealed that over 7,000 metric tons of donated wheat, or approximately £15 million, have been stolen from their region. The theft was carried out by various federal and regional authorities and other individuals, although the exact time frame was not specified in the findings. As of now, other regions have yet to report any specific amounts regarding this issue. The Ethiopian government has refuted any claims that it is primarily responsible for the disappearance of aid in Tigray and other areas, dismissing them as harmful propaganda. Despite this, the government has agreed to collaborate with the United States in a joint investigation, while the United Nations World Food Programme conducts a separate inquiry. According to government spokesperson Legesse Tulu, the tactic employed by Western aid officials to distance themselves from accusations of wrongdoing by solely attributing the issue to government institutions and procedures is completely unacceptable and does not reflect the reality on the ground. This statement was made earlier this month to reporters, but Tulu and other government representatives have not yet responded to messages from the AP. According to aid workers, humanitarian organizations have been known to tolerate some level of corruption by government officials for a considerable amount of time. The distribution of aid in Ethiopia has been politicized to a significant degree for many years, including during the catastrophic famine of the 1980s. During this period, the communist regime in power at the time prevented aid from reaching areas controlled by rebel groups. According to a high-ranking USAID official who spoke to the AP, the most recent incident of theft involving food aid from both the United States and United Nations was carried out in several ways. This includes the manipulation of the list of beneficiaries, which the Ethiopian government has insisted on managing, as well as looting committed by Ethiopian government and Tigray forces, as well as forces from Eritrea. Moreover, large quantities of donated wheat were diverted to commercial flour mills located in no less than 63 different sites. According to a former official from Tigray, it is not uncommon for government employees to exaggerate the number of beneficiaries and pocket the surplus grain for themselves. This is a widespread practice in other regions of Ethiopia, as reported by two representatives from international organizations operating within the country. A multitude of officials have accused the World Food Programme, WFP, of neglecting their duty to distribute rations in a secure manner, oftentimes leaving them in the center of towns where they are susceptible to theft by Eritrean forces. The USAID representative hinted at the existence of certain individuals referred to as market actors, who appear to be taking advantage of the vulnerable state of hungry families. These actors are believed to be pressuring said families into relinquishing the food aid they have received, a suspicion shared by the WFP. Having experienced deadly famines in the past, Ethiopia faces a concerning lack of food aid. In the month of May, a United Nations memorandum obtained by the AP revealed that not a single one of the 6 million inhabitants of Tigray received any food aid. This was an unprecedented occurrence and was attributed to the cessation of donations by both the United States and the United Nations. Independent humanitarian organizations caution that a rapid resolution to the conflict could lead to the deaths of numerous individuals, considering that more than 20 million people in Ethiopia rely on such aid, and over 800,000 refugees from Somalia and other regions are also in need of assistance. In his first in-depth public statement, Michael Dunford, the Regional Director for East Africa at the United Nations Food Agency, the WFP, recognized the potential for shortcomings in their monitoring of the dissemination of aid. This week, in an interview with the AP, he acknowledged that there was room for improvement in their handling of the situation. He stated, "We accept that we could have done better." However, up until this point, Dunford explained that the Ethiopian government had primarily been in charge of managing the process. According to the senior official representing USAID, there were multiple factors that contributed to the lack of awareness regarding the extent of aid misappropriation. In particular, the 20-month-long conflict impeded the agency's ability to physically access the Tigray region. Additionally, COVID-related restrictions and apprehensions around security further constrained USAID's ability to monitor the situation in other parts of the country. There were lawmakers from both the Republican and Democratic parties who expressed their approval of USAID's rare decision to suspend aid to the country. They believed that this action demonstrates the agency's serious approach towards the theft of US aid. When asked if he had concerns regarding USAID's oversight, Senator Chris Coons, a senior Democrat from Delaware, responded that he was more worried about the potential systematic diversion of food that was intended for the starving Ethiopian population by the country's government and military. The leading Republican member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Jim Risch of Idaho, stated that it is imperative to ask difficult questions that require answers, and it is necessary for our partner to exhibit some measure of willingness to collaborate. In order to resume USAID food aid in Ethiopia, Risch believes that a significant shift in the approach to food assistance must occur. He emphasizes the importance of accountability and transparency, stating that the first principle of humanitarian aid is to avoid causing harm. Risch expresses concern that harm has already been done and stresses the need to prevent its continuation in order to assure the American taxpayer. Efforts are currently underway by both US and United Nations officials to curtail or eliminate the involvement of Ethiopian government officials in the aid system. According to Dunford, we are reclaiming full control over the commodities. This involves managing the entire supply chain, starting from when the food enters the country until it reaches the intended recipients. The strategy includes utilizing third-party distribution, continuous third-party monitoring, and biometric registration of beneficiaries. As per a briefing memorandum obtained by the Associated Press from donors, the United States government is urging the Ethiopian government to withdraw itself from the creation of lists of beneficiaries and the management of aid transportation, storage, and distribution. The high-ranking official at USAID stated that the Ethiopian government has made assurances to work together for reform. However, the official also noted that the necessary reforms have not yet been implemented to enable the resumption of aid. Once more, it is the non-combatant population that is bearing the brunt of the hardship. As the harvest season in Ethiopia comes to a close, the approaching lean season brings with it concerns of potential mass starvation in isolated regions of Tigray, according to a report by the United Nations Humanitarian Agency, which was shared with the AP. The report, compiled in April, reveals the agency's private apprehensions surrounding this issue. Additionally, another report from May reveals that 20 individuals have reportedly died of starvation in Samre, a region located a brief drive from the Tigray capital of Mekele. The primary hospital in Tigray documented a significant rise of 28% in the count of malnourished children admitted from the month of March to April. In the town of Aksum, the increase was even more alarming, with a whopping 96% surge in admissions at the local hospital. Berhane Hale, one of the many people who have been uprooted by war and are struggling with hunger, expressed that even just having one meal in a day is considered a triumph. To support our channel's growth and ensure broader awareness, kindly hit the like and subscribe buttons. This will help us reach more individuals and disseminate valuable information. Thank you in advance.